The next thing that we're going to talk about with these graphs are transformations. So that's a phase shift and a vertical shift. So moving it left or right, or moving it up and down from its normal position. So like on all the other ones, you know, sine always started on 0. So that is not going to be the case anymore if we move them like that. So you can see right here is a little box that has some info in it. We are not doing tangent. Tangent gets super crazy, and I felt like with the time we had left, we needed to just focus on sine and cosine. So you can just focus in on the first two right there and ignore the tangent. Like other functions, trigonometric functions can be translated. So a phase shift is a horizontal shift. Plus h moves it left, and minus h moves it right. That should be very familiar to you because you've done all kinds of things where you've had to move a line or you've had to move a parabola. And plus h always moves things left, and minus h always moves things right. So if you look at this first example, y equals sine theta minus pi, shifts the whole thing pi units to the right. And then we'll just use the tangent for this, but we're not going to actually graph the tangent. So if you had y equals tangent of theta plus pi over 4, then you're shifting pi over 4 units to the left. Vertical shifts, remember this time the plus actually means plus and the minus actually means minus. So h is always opposite and k is always normal. So if you have plus k shifts, then you're going to move the whole graph up. If you have minus k shifts, you're going to move the whole thing down. So an example of that is the plus or the minus is outside of the parentheses. So notice with the h, it's in the parentheses. It's part of what you're taking the sine or the cosine of. In examples C and D for the vertical shifts, you're doing the tangent of theta and then adding 2 to the answer. So you would shift 2 units up, and then cosine minus 4, you would shift 4 units down. So that's very straightforward. All right, so we're going to put all of this information together from the last video and this one. So A is the amplitude. It affects the amplitude. B is the period. So a number there is going to make it, so amplitude makes it taller or shorter, period makes it wider or skinnier. And then minus h is a phase shift. And I'm just going to put left to right over there. And then k is a vertical shift, which of course is up or down. Oh, I can't get all that in there. That's very hard to see. I'm sorry. Okay, so actually, let me fix it because I had more room than I thought I had. Doesn't look much better. Okay, and then the midline, so this is a new word. So shifting a graph vertically will create a new horizontal axis called the midline. So the midline is like an imaginary new x-axis. This is the reference line to which a graph oscillates. So it is the 0 part of that graph now. So if you look right here on this, here's the original 0. Where sine is just sine. And then if you move up 1, 2, 3, 4, so you moved it up plus 4, that's the new midline. And so that's your new 0 to oscillate or do your wave above and below. So it's the same exact sine wave, you just move the whole thing up 4 spots. So the equation for the midline for this one is y equals 4. So the midline equation is going to be just whatever is added or subtracted from the whole entire equation. Okay, so one thing that we can do is describe the transformation. So you can state all of this information just by looking at the problem. So we know the amplitude is 1/2. We know the period is 2 pi over 3. We know the phase shift is not there. There's nothing in parentheses with the theta. We know the shift for the vertical is 5 down because it's a -5. And so that means our new midline would be -5, or y equals -5. The next one is tangent, but we're going to replace it with cosine because tangent actually doesn't have an amplitude, so the 4 doesn't even affect it. So I am going to go in here with some white and white that out and just put in its place cosine. Let me see this in, or I will never get that in that tiny amount of space. Okay, oh, I wanted that to be black. Okay, so we're going to use cosine there instead of tangent. So this one, the amplitude would be 4 because that's out in front of it. The period would be pi over 2. So, no, it wouldn't. I'm sorry. It would just be pi. That was still from the tangent problem. So remember, you have 2 pi over 2. And so that would give you pi. Then the phase shift would be 2 pi to the left because it was plus, and the vertical would be 1 up because it was also plus. And that also means that the midline is y equals 1. So the midline just comes from whatever is added on to the end. So if it's plus, then it's positive. Over here, it was negative. Oh, shoot, I forgot to change it. So that made it -5. We'll do some more practice on the next one.